heal as a team, we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen, believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. Hell yeah. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now, I can't make you do it. You got to look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now, I think you're going to see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're going to see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're going to do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Ideas are bulletproof.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. It is January 11th, 2012. This is Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye, from FederalJack.com. Today's live edition is going to be one of my rant editions. It's not going to be 2 hours of me getting in-depth into just one subject. I'm going to be talking about a few things that have come up in the news in the past few days. Things that I think need to be discussed. And a few of the clips that I'm going to play for you, I'm going to dissect and tear apart. So I do have a full-packed show for you guys. I'd like to announce a special project I'm doing here on my show. Depending on how much feedback I get, I'd like to start a segment at least once a week. Give you guys, the people that I'm going to request right in, give you guys a voice. I want to do a special for veterans or active duty, any branch of the service, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, National Guard, Reserve, active duty, retired, vet, disabled vet. And I'd like to call it Veterans View, like the Veterans View. What I basically want you guys to do is send me emails to info@federaljack.com. Again, info, I-N-F-O, at federaljack.com. And tell me your feelings on things. And if it's, try to make it, because it's going to be read on air, so obviously it can't be laden with profanity. But try to, I could, substitute, if you say the F word here or there, that's fine, because I could substitute that, But it will be read on air, so, try to be somewhat to the point, but feel free to be as long-winded as you would like. Basically, I'd like to give the veterans a chance to get their voices heard. And I want to hear your opinions on the election, politics, the New World Order, the war. If there's something that you witnessed or saw that you want to get out and talk about, but you want to remain anonymous, that's fine. If you're just a pissed-off veteran, you don't like how things are going, and you want to rant about that, that's fine. I want to give you guys, at least a segment, like once a week, if possible. If I get more, maybe I can even donate more time to it. But I'd like to donate some of my airtime to the men and women of the armed services that don't get a chance to have their voices heard. So I'd like to give them a chance to, get their opinions and stuff put on air. And again, no topic is off the table, so feel free to write in, email me, and tell me, veterans, how you guys feel. I want to know, and I will read the I'll read the emails on air. It's much easier to do it like this. That way, people have time to compose their thoughts and stuff, and then they can send me the emails, and then I can, once I get a couple of them and I get enough, I'll do a special little segment. And then, like I said, depending on how many I get, once a week, if I have to donate more time to it, maybe more. And I can give you guys, I can let the listeners all over the world hear veterans' viewpoints on different things. So that's my new little project I'm working on. So again, veterans, families of veterans that maybe have something they want to get out. Maybe you lost your son or your daughter, or something bad happened to them and they committed suicide, whatever the case may be. I want to get it out. I want people to know the truth. And since veterans don't get a chance to get their voices heard enough, like I said, I want to donate this time to them. So email me at info@federaljack.com. Again, info@federaljack.com. And any vets that listen to this, if you guys ever feel depressed or anything like that, or you're having a bad day or something, and you start to have some dumb thoughts for whatever reason, maybe you saw something and it's been bothering you, feel free to email me. Okay, anytime. It goes directly to my cell phone as soon as you send it. And if I constantly check it, and if I see anything that's like really outrageous, feel free to email me, and I will. If I as soon as I read it, especially if it's something like that, I will respond, and I'll if it's legit and everything, and I know it's not somebody being an idiot or whatever, but if it's really legit and you're really upset, I can give you a way to contact us if you want to just chat and blow some stuff off or whatever. But I don't want you guys thinking that there's nobody out there that understands you or doesn't think anything. So there's always a better way, because the rate of veteran suicide nowadays is just incredible, ladies and gentlemen, and we really need to do something about it. So I'm hoping to lead by example and step up to the plate and offer my ear to any guys, or women that need to blow some steam off, your veterans, active duty, whatever. Again, email me. And again, if there's anything, if you don't have to just email me, with a story. If there's something bothering you and you need just a vet to talk to and, blow some steam off or whatever, I'm here. Plus, there's always plenty of real people you can talk to. I suggest, you go on the internet, try to find, I don't want to say suicide hotline groups and stuff like that, because those things are useless. Try to look up other veterans. There's strength in numbers. We've all been through the same types of things. So try to look for people that have been through the same stuff. And, there is a better way. I just want to get that out there as much as I can, because it's just the rate of suicide amongst veterans today is outrageous. And a lot of it has to do with some of the evil stuff that I've talked about, where they witness things or they're forced to take part in things via their command while they're in a war zone. And as Joe Joseph and myself have explained on numerous occasions, yes, you don't have to follow an illegal order, but when you're in a war zone in another country, it's not that easy, and it's not that black and white. And a lot of these guys that do stand up for what's right, you know, you heard me talk about John Needham, what he went through. You know, his own command tortured him and locked him up for 30 days, so it's not that black and white, ladies and gentlemen. And these men and women do deserve to have a voice and an ear to listen to them. We're going to break. I'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. All right. I have two stories for you, okay? And they both involve Marines. One was a case of a Marine being back here and being the system being out of control, and the guy just happens to be a retired Marine, and this police state in New York is out of control. I'll get into that in a second. And the other one is, unfortunately, a video surfaced today of a bunch of Marines after they killed what looks like 3 Taliban members, pissing on the dead bodies. Now, again, I know how war is, and I know in war the lines get really blurred, and war is a very bad thing. That's why we should not be backing it. Okay? We should never, ever, ever use war as a political football or a tool. It should be a last resort, because this is the kind of things that come about from it. And I'm sure if I was out in the field for a year and I watched my buddies get killed, I would probably do something stupid. And I know some of my friends might have done something stupid. But it pisses me off, because the whole Marine Corps isn't bad, and neither are any other branches of the military. When I say that, I mean not everybody in them is bad, but this evil is permeating through it. And you have these idiots that do stupid things, and then they videotape themselves like a bunch of jagoffs, you know, because they're not using their heads. Obviously, their heads aren't in the right place, or they probably wouldn't be pissing on a dead human body. And I'm not making excuses for them, but it just pisses me off, because you have good men and women that really do work hard to build respect for that uniform, and then you have morons that go ahead and systematically piss all over it. And of course, that comes down, behavior like that is always, that starts with, you know, your higher-ups condoning it. Obviously, out of the 4 guys there, somebody had to have been in charge out of the 4 of them. One of them should have said, no, this is a bad idea, we shouldn't be doing this and videotaping this. First of all, we're idiots because we're not using our heads. And, you know, secondly, we're desecrating a human body. We should be better than that. Unfortunately, war brings out the dark side of people. Again, that goes back to why we should not even engage in it unless, you know, it's absolutely necessary. But this is what happens. You F with the dark side, and it comes out. Anyway, so, yes, this video is out, and the Marines are pissing on the Taliban guys' bodies. So, again, to the guys that did it, you guys just, seriously, all the hard work and, you know, things that you did that were honorable, and all the honorable work that all your friends have done, and, you know, it's just, you make it look bad. It's really frustrating, okay? The people that, you know, have good intentions, it gets marred by a few bad apples. And unfortunately, you can see through everything, all branches of the military, civilian police force, the evil is starting to turn good people and make them do stupid and dumb, immoral things, whether it's pissing on dead bodies or abusing people or killing people that, you know, had nothing to do with anything. They were just innocent. It goes back to that whole, the dark side, and when you embrace it, you know, when I was talking about that a couple shows ago. As a veteran, I understand how I guess I understand things maybe a little differently, but war should never be used. It brings out the worst in everybody. And the kind of actions we're asking our military men and women to do today, it's inevitable that this kind of thing is going to happen, because our soldiers and Marines are not police officers. Okay, Marines are not police officers. Marines are for one thing and one thing only: closing in with the enemy and wiping them out. The Army comes in and cleans up. The Air Force is for close-in air support. The Navy is pretty much the transport, and if you need a village to go bye-bye, you ask them, hey, train your guns on this and make this village disappear. Okay? And then you have the Coast Guard, which provides marine support up and down the waterways, like they did in the Mekong Delta, and marine security. And then the National Guard is used to bolster the Army's ranks. That's how it works in a war. You know, on a simplified scale. Anyway, soldiers and Marines are not police officers. And this is what happens when you try to make them police officers. Or you try to make them do the job of a police officer. This is the kind of things that happen. And they know this. These people understand this. They just don't care. They are evil to the core. And these politicians don't care. Most of these chicken hawk scumbags have never served a day in their life. So they know that these guys are going to be pushed over the edge, and they're going to do stupid, deplorable things. They understand this. This isn't something that, oh, wow, well, Popeye, they just discovered this yesterday. No. As long as war has been waged, the aftermath and after effects have been studied by people. And within the past, I'd say 40 years, the effects psychologically of what it does to a human being to see 8, 10, 15 tours of combat. One tour of combat scars somebody. Can you imagine 8 to 10? So, of course, people are going to start to lose their humanity and do stupid things. And again, I'm not making excuses for it, but it's just I understand the game from a step back. I know that in the grand scheme of things, these social engineering pricks, they would just love to blame those Marines and be like, well, they're just stupid, they're stupid grunts, and they run around and they shoot people and they're useless dogs, like Kissinger said. Well, no, those Marines are men, and they have families, and they're humans. And the things that they did to those other people, desecrating their bodies, was immoral. And they may not know it now, but years later, that's going to bother them, and that will stick with them. Okay? If it doesn't now, it will eventually. When they get out of that theater of war and they start to adjust back to normal, everyday life, and they start to acquiesce, which takes a long, long time and is not an easy thing to do. So all because of some rich politician scumbag, that says, yeah, go ahead and do it because he's getting money or whatever, kickbacks to push for war. These are the kind of things that happen inevitably, especially after 10 years of constant war. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. I'm not making excuses, but I'm just disappointed all around. Again, I'm disappointed in the Marines. I expect better than that. And again, I'm not an officer. I'm not the freaking commandant of the Marine Corps or anything, but the Marines are they're the branch that other branches are supposed to kind of look to and be like, wow, those guys got their shit together. And as within the past 10 years, things are from the inside. This evil is permeating them, and it's starting to go. I mean, I know it's happened before. It's not just the first time, but it's like it's been kicked up a notch. So it bothers me on that level. And then it bothers me that it's that deep, this evil, this dehumanization. We need to turn that around. We need to, and these Marines and anybody else that does this stuff, they are still human. Sometimes there is still hope. Some of them may be gone too far, but most of them are still human beings, and we can get through them. All right. So I like to always get through the rough crap first, because I like to do the hard stuff and the tough things first, get it over with. That way the rest of the things that you have to deal with are always a lot easier. So I got through the sickening thing with them, with the Marines and the dead Taliban. Okay, now on to the second story about the other Marine. Now, New York City is known to be a police state, okay? And it is really getting out of their control. Well, I shouldn't say out of their control. It's out of control. I had two thoughts going through my mind at the same time. Sorry about that. Their gun laws are archaic. And it's just getting to the point of insanity. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, there's this Marine, okay? He, honorably discharged, honorably served. He happens to be a jeweler, and he's from, I forget what state he's from, but you'll hear it in the clip. I'm going to play it for you. And he travels to New York, okay, to get, I guess, as a tourist, but to do some business with jeweling and other stuff, whatever the hell they do. I really don't know, but I guess sell diamonds, gold, whatever the hell he does. And he had like $15,000. I think he had gold on him at the time, so it was like $15,000 in gold. And he had his legally carried pistol, concealed weapons permit, and he didn't know about the laws in New York City. And he had gone to a website that showed reciprocity in certain states. And for those of you who don't know what that means if I have a gun permit in Florida, concealed weapons permit rather, and I want to travel to Georgia with my gun, I can, because Georgia has reciprocity with Florida, and Florida has reciprocity with Georgia, meaning that if a Georgia resident comes here, their gun permit is good here, and a Florida resident going to Georgia would mean that their gun permit from Florida is good in Georgia. And there's actually already many states that do this. So when you hear liberals screaming on the news, oh my God, can you imagine if people were walking around in all these states with guns concealed? They already are, idiots. That's why they're called concealed weapons. You don't know about them. Duh. Thank you for playing, morons. Okay. Anyway, this guy goes to New York, and he doesn't, after he checks the site, he thought it was okay. He sees a sign that says no gun, so he asked security where he was supposed to check his gun. And then 10 minutes later, they're placing him under arrest. And New York City has this mandatory 3 years in jail BS if you take your gun up there. No guns, no guns at all. You're not allowed to defend yourself in New York. Now I'm going to play this clip, and I'm going to tear it apart, because the little idiot in this clip, she really gets out of control. There's obviously they have one guy that, kind of head on shoulders. The other one is just a complete, just, I guess you could say liberal, but just completely anti-Second Amendment. And that's obviously probably why they put her on. But she is like, oh, he should go to jail, blah, blah. And this kid, by the way, the Marine, he's sitting at the table across from this woman, who I'll point out in the video. I don't know how he didn't lose it. I would have been like, what?
Ryan Jerome is a third-generation Marine with a license to carry a handgun in his home state of Indiana. He thought it was okay to bring his weapon on his first business trip to New York City. He brought his gun because he's a jeweler and was carrying $15,000 worth of gold. While visiting the Empire State Building, he asked security where he could check his weapon. And that's when the nightmare began. Ryan Jerome, his attorney Mark Betterow, and Faith Jenkins, former prosecutor, joined me this evening. Now, Ryan, I'm going to start with you. Why did you think it was okay to bring your gun to New York City?
Well, actually, before I left on my trip to come out here, I actually got online on my cell phone, and I looked up a website, and I looked for the New York gun laws. And from my understanding, from looking at the site, I was legal to carry my weapon.
And what we were just looking at was a screen of the website that you actually went to, which looked pretty complicated to me. Do you want to put that back up, guys? This is the screen you accessed on your cell phone. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you go to secure your gun, and tell us what happens.
Go to the Empire State Building. I was actually bought a ticket outside and told the ticket salesman that I had a gun. And I said, do I need to leave my gun in my hotel room, or can I bring it and check it in security? And he said, you should have no problem checking it with security. So I went directly to security, told him exactly what I told the salesman outside, and that I had a gun. And from that point on, I found out that it was illegal to have the gun. A couple minutes later, I'm downstairs in the basement. I'm getting arrested by NYPD.
Okay, so you're under arrest. You go to jail, right?
Correct.
Okay, now, Mark, your client is charged with criminal possession of a weapon in the 3rd degree. He faces 15 years in prison with a mandatory minimum of 3.5 years. Is that fair?
Well, no. I mean, he's a 3rd-generation Marine who obviously came here. He made a mistake. He thought the law was clear.
This is the guy's attorney, by the way. I wasn't sure who the other guy that was going to be on the dais there, the little stage with them. It's the guy's attorney. Just wanted to update the listeners. All right, here you go.
Here, and it allowed him to carry the gun. He's a tourist, and he came here to transact business. And to sentence a good person like him and subject him to a mandatory minimum of 3.5 years is unjust, and it's just not the purpose of the New York gun law. It's created for criminals. This man is not a criminal. This man made a mistake, and it just shouldn't happen.
All right. Now, Faith, this guy is a Marine with an unblemished record. He's got a license to carry a gun in his home state of Indiana. He openly goes to the Empire State Building and says, well, where do I check this gun? I have this gun. Why prosecute a guy like this?
Because, Judge, for a couple of reasons. First of all, this is not a gun that, someone has in their home. They're using it for protection, or a gun that's used for hunting. The sole purpose for this kind of gun is to be used as a weapon. And as...
I have to cut this idiot off for a second. Did you see the wordplay? Did you see it there? Did you hear it? It's not in the home to be used for self-defense. So if the only guns that are ever used for self-defense are the ones in the home. So the ones, I guess, that cops carry, I guess those aren't for self-defense, right? I guess those are weapons, and I guess since there's a lot of police-involved shootings as of late, I guess we should treat the police as murderers then, under your logic, right? I mean, that's the dumbest thing ever, okay? He's got the gun on him, not for hunting, for one reason, to use it as a weapon. A gun is a weapon, okay? Last time I checked, a gun is a weapon. You don't use a gun as a hammer, okay? If I need to hammer a nail in my wall, I don't pull out a .45 and just start beating it in. There's a tool for each thing, okay? A gun is a tool for self-defense. Yes, it could be used to do bad things, but the gun isn't going to wake up in the morning and be like, I need to go shoot somebody today. I need to get it out of my system. People kill people. Guns don't kill people. People kill people.
As a result, there are rules and regulations for being able to carry a concealed weapon in public among all of us, the public.
But there's no claim, Faith, that he intended to use it against anyone.
Wait a minute. She ignores the fact that he's already got a concealed weapons permit. There are rules and regulations to be able to carry a gun amongst the rest of us. Like if you carry a gun, you suddenly are Typhoid Mary. I mean, this is the kind of crap. And of course, she gets 50% of the airtime on this clip, okay? And I'm going to tear her apart because nobody else was there to tear her apart, and this host, who's a quote-unquote judge, did nothing to really, threw her softballs, nothing. This chick's up there tearing, the Second Amendment apart for no reason, tearing this Marine apart, saying that he should be prosecuted and sent to jail for a minimum of 3.5 years. He should. That's her stance. This guy, who's not a criminal, honorably discharged, new lips, and has a concealed weapons permit, so he's legal. She wants him to be in jail for a minimum of 3.5 years for the crime of owning a gun, okay? That's why. Because this little girl obviously grew up in a gated community.
Anyone, or that he was required to only use it in his home. I mean, what was illegal about his bringing his gun to New York?
Well, in New York, you cannot have a loaded firearm on the street. That's the law, period. And
Yeah, so in New York, the only people that are allowed to run around with loaded firearms are the thugs in the NYPD. We're going to break, ladies and gentlemen. I'll finish tearing this clip apart on the other side. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Stay tuned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pick up right where I left off with this clip, and we're going to start ripping it apart. So let's listen to, I think her name is Faith. Let's listen to Faith and her ignorant stance on being able to defend herself and how she defends that this Marine should go to jail for 3.5 years minimum.
As a responsible gun owner, it is your duty and responsibility to know what the law is when you travel outside of your state. When you get a permit in another state, you either have to take a class or you are told if you leave the state, you have to abide by the guidelines of
But
this
he
permit.
did go to a website. And do you believe for 1 second that he intended to violate the New York laws?
I don't know. I can't say whether he intended to violate New York laws. He probably wanted to have his gun with him. He was traveling with $15,000 worth of gold. But I will tell you this, New York, the legislatures, Mayor Bloomberg, they have been the most vocal and outspoken people about the
That's great that the mayor's outspoken and vocal about it, but that's really not the point. I think the question is, why prosecute this man? And so, Mark, I'm going to go.
You hear her ignorant comment as the guy is supposed to be on top of New York politics and paying attention to what everything the New York mayor does because, hey, he's been outspoken about it. He lives in Indiana. Oh, that's one big fact that you just don't want to pay attention to, right? Because you're all about putting people in jail for exercising their Second Amendment.
You. What is the next step in this process?
Well, the next step is for them to decide, meaning the Manhattan District Attorney, whether to indict him or not. If they do indict him, then the process of a minimum of 3.5 years will start. Whether they'll do that or not, we don't know. It hasn't happened yet. We're certainly hopeful that the DA will recognize that this case screams with compelling mitigation. Prosecutors have a powerful weapon. It's called discretion.
Prosecutorial discretion. I remind my prosecutors of that every day. Faith, so this law, isn't it meant to cover criminals who are carrying illegal weapons as opposed to a guy who legally registers his gun and mistakenly brings it to New York?
Well, what Mr. Betterow said is true. All of these mitigating circumstances are going to come into play, and that's important because you take these cases case by case. But, Judge, what happens when someone says, a tourist comes into the city and they says, I didn't know, I made a mistake. This is not like a mistake that you don't know the speeding limit. You have a deadly weapon on you, and that person is released and someone gets killed.
But he's not charged with that. I mean, that's taken it to the next step. That's not what we have here. He's not charged with someone being killed. What we're saying is that it's strict liability in New York. We don't care whether he intended to or...
You hear her? He had a loaded gun. The judge said he's not charged with killing anybody. And she's saying, well, the possibility is he could kill somebody, so he has to go to jail for 3.5 years because he possibly could kill somebody with that gun. It was loaded after all. Well, with that thinking, I could possibly kill somebody with a lead pencil. Does that make me a murderer if I haven't done it? Does that mean that, are we getting into pre-crime here? And by the way, you all know that they're all pushing this pre-crime thing now, okay? Pre-crime technology and all this other crap. I'm doing air quotes, okay? So now she's throwing little key things in there. Who knows? Maybe she's obviously been told certain things to say and to throw out there. Who knows? You never know. Maybe she's just that ignorant. Either way, she's thinking already like these pre-crime people. Well, he could do it, so he could be possibly a terrorist. Yeah, well, what if, or he could, or she could lead you in about a bazillion different directions, just with those three possibilities. So what are you going to arrest everybody and round everybody up? Oh, that's right, you're just looking for an excuse. Okay, well, let's get back into it.
Not. Is that fair? There's no way. You can't downplead this case. He's got to go to prison for 2 years.
Well, at a minimum, it's 3.5 years if he's convicted of the top crime.
If they plea bargain, at the most they can give him is 2 years. Anyway, finally, I'm going to ask you, Ryan, what do you hope will happen here?
Oh, man, I hope that people can really see this for what it is. And just, that we can really resolve this quickly and that the DA would just really, honestly, just drop it. And what
it's just, I I have nothing but contempt for people that want to violate other people's Second Amendment rights. And my own, because obviously if they want to violate other people's, they want to, violate my own. So by this woman's thoughts, and of course she's drinking the Kool-Aid, and that's why she was brought on to defend that point and to defend that point of view. And obviously the way she's fighting it, she's somewhat impassioned about it. So who knows what ulterior motives she may have, but she obviously does not like the Second Amendment, and she believes that guns are bad. She's part of this crowd that guns are archaic. Look, again, I would love to live in a world where every one of us, every human being on this planet, got along. And we all loved one another. And didn't hurt one another. And didn't do things to one another. But that's not the case. And gun owners aren't people that want to go out and overthrow the government or be in some militia or run around killing people, okay? 98% of the gun owners out there, okay? Let's say 95 because I'm sure we'll say like 90 because let's be realistic. There's a lot of bad guys out there with guns too. But let's say like all the legal gun owners, okay? The legal gun owners don't walk around wanting to shoot people. I've seen plenty of stories where a guy was carrying a gun and gave the other person fair warning. Don't make me do this, drew his weapon out. Stop coming at me, stop coming at me. I'm going to shoot you. You're putting me in fear of my life. And if you live in a state where you're allowed to carry a firearm, which is a lot of them, by the way, okay, for the dunces that don't know, for the people that might say, well, Popeye, I live in a state where it's illegal. Well, then maybe you should leave your state once in a while on vacation and go see what the rest of the country looks like. Okay, more than half this country you can carry a gun, in most of the states. So anyway, you really need to look into it and pay attention to the gun laws and figure out how you can protect yourself. Because, again, criminals aren't going to break into your house and they're not going to, say, I have a bat or I have a knife. Go pick up the appropriate weapon to defend yourself with. They're not going to give you a chance. Criminals are just going to come in, and anybody coming in your house at 3 o'clock in the morning you should assume is a bad person. So, and these anti-gun nuts need to wake up and realize that the cops are not going to be there to help you out. Rarely is a police officer there to stop a crime, okay? If they're out hunting, maybe they might see somebody dealing drugs or whatever, or doing something that they perceive to be a crime. But rarely do cops stop a rape from happening, okay, or roll up and a guy's raping a woman. It happens, but that's not the majority of the time. It's, after the fact it gets reported. Murders and stuff. The cops aren't there to stop a murder. You can't carry a cop around with you. One, there aren't enough of them, and two, they're just way too heavy. So it's much easier, it's cheaper and lighter to carry a firearm and defend yourself. Yes, there's a little humor in there. But seriously, it's easier to defend yourself. So I suggest anybody that lives in a state, again, research your laws, see if you live in a good state, with state constitution-wise, gun rights-wise, and exercise your Second Amendment. Look, you never know when somebody could try to hurt you. And I'm not saying that you need to be fearful, but you should be able to protect yourself at all times and the people that you're with. Okay? That's it. You should be able to protect yourself. You have the right to protect yourself and defend yourself. So exercise it. The more you exercise it, I guarantee you, the more you'll enjoy it and the more defensive of it you'll become, because then you'll realize that if somebody tries to take that right away from you, obviously they can't have your best interest at heart if they want to take away your right to be able to defend yourself under the pretense of, oh, it's safe for everybody. It's better for the whole social culture. It's better for everyone. The whole country as a whole. Then we shouldn't have guns. Oh, that would be real smart. What did Yamamoto say in World War II? Admiral Yamamoto, the architect of the invasion of Pearl Harbor, what did he say during World War II? They were Japanese that wanted to, I don't want to say politicians, but I guess you could call them politicians back then, but members of, I guess, the ruling elite or whatever that wanted to, had postulated, maybe we should, invade America. Maybe we should, maybe we should invade the mainland, United States of America. And Yamamoto was like, no, you people are nuts. And he told the people in the military that wanted to do it, you're nuts. He said, you're all out of your gourd because the citizens are all armed to the teeth. And if you tried to invade the mainland, although the citizens aren't involved in the ground war, other than joining the military voluntarily, but the citizens, if you get them to the point where they're defending their homeland, they all have guns, man. They don't have rocks, and obviously I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm sure he was like, they're going to kick the crap out of us. But he's quoted as saying I would never dream of invading the mainland United States, for there would be a gun behind every blade of grass. So just the fact that people own guns stopped the Japs from invading. But no, let's just get rid of our guns because, hey, they don't really do anything, right? Their guns wake up and tell people to kill people. Just idiotic. The anti-gun crowd is out of control. An armed society is a polite society, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back with hour number 2. I have a ton of more information for you, so stay tuned. We'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to hour number 2 of this Wednesday, January 11th, 2012 edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye, from federaljack.com. Remember, I do have a website, ladies and gentlemen, and it does get a ton of traffic as of late. So I'm glad people are finding it to be useful. And there are a few things. I know the ebooks section has been on and off lately. We're working on it. We're actually upgrading it, and we were having a conflict with something, so we're redoing the entire ebook database. So I'm working on that. That'll be fixed soon. So I will let everybody know when all the new things and have been added, or when anything that we've been working on gets tweaked or whatever. So I'll keep everybody updated. But the site is updated. I try to update it, at least once a day with a few stories, at least from around the world, things that are massively important. There's a huge video archive. And there's a radio show archive there, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, in high quality, you can listen to all the past shows I've done and a slew of other radio shows that I've been on. Anybody wants to know the topics we've talked about, it's all there. You can just click and it brings you to a link, and then you can listen to the whole show, commercial free actually, because it's the YouTube videos that I've rendered. And obviously maybe one or two has some video that goes with what we were talking about at the time, but most of them, other than the special broadcasts, just are the radio show. So you could put it on and listen to it in the background. And I try to update it every, about once or twice a week. Usually about once a week I add 3 or 4 new shows, usually from the week before. I do it all myself, so it does take a little while. If I had 18 arms, it would probably be a lot easier, I could do multiple things at once, but I can't. So anyway, I try to update it for you guys. So I want to get into this next story, and this is going to piss everybody off. And again, I had to watch this clip like 3 times because I couldn't believe just when you look 4 or 5 years ago compared to now. I mean, they used to laugh at you if you talked about this kind of stuff, and now they openly talk about it and laugh at you if you're against it on air. So the DHS is monitoring all social media and websites and blogs. So if you go on Facebook and you type in, this gets interesting for the words that they're looking for. If you go on Facebook and you have an infected toenail and you type in, I have an infection in my toenail, the word infection is a keyword because you typed infection into your Facebook status. You are now going to be monitored by Department of Homeland Security until they feel that they don't have to monitor you anymore. And then they keep all of that information and sell it to corporations, businesses, police departments, other agencies. I mean, this is disgusting. This is just absolutely disgusting behavior. But hey, I mean, it's all for our safety, right? Because, you know, the 15-year-old girl that got an infection from a bug bite that she picked at on her leg, yeah, she's a national security risk, guys. She's a problem. Or the little old lady that's got diabetes that got an infection, okay? You could type the word outbreak. There's a few other things. They list it in this clip. But, of course, I'm going to rip the clip apart because it's from Fox News. So, but listen to this. And they have this neocon, just total douche on. His name's Tad. I forget his last name, but you'll hear him.
What you tweet, an online privacy group suing the Department of Homeland Security over its recently announced plans for a system to monitor blogs, message boards, and social media sites like Twitter, Facebook. The privacy advocates questioning the Fed's legal authority for the initiative and claiming that DHS agents will flag you for typing certain words like infection, outbreak, or illegal immigrants. Let's bring this to our legal panel. Joining us from Houston is former prosecutor Tad Nelson, and from our Atlanta newsroom, defense attorney Pilar Prince. And
Tad Nelson. This is the guy I was talking about.
Is this all good? I mean, you got the government now is friending us on Facebook, following us on Twitter. Is that in the name of national security or a little bit too much of an invasion of privacy?
No, this is absolutely good. I mean, after the Arab Spring, if our government isn't watching everything that's going on the internet, we should be offended. I mean, they're out there protecting us. And Facebook is based on that. Look at me, here I am. I went to dinner with this person last night. I drive this kind of car. I'm going on vacation next week. People are just screaming at you saying, hey, look at me. We should be looking at them. And if we can fool them to get on their Facebook page, they don't deserve the constitutional protection anyway if they're that stupid. But this is...
Are you kidding me? If you're stupid enough, this is what he just said. You just heard him say if you're stupid enough to like the Department of Homeland Security on Facebook and go to their Facebook page, you heard him. If we can trick you to come to our page and you're that stupid, then you don't deserve any constitutional protection anyway. F this guy. This guy should be locked up right now. Okay? F you, Tad. Okay? Scumbag. I mean, the balls on this guy. And where's the friggin' quote-unquote news moderator from Fox News? Sitting in the middle with this stupid grin on his face. You just heard him tell you that if you're stupid, quote unquote, if you're stupid enough to get tricked into liking the Department of Homeland Security on Facebook, aren't you supposed to be able to trust the Department of Homeland Security? Well, apparently, if you like them on Facebook, they're monitoring you. Good job. So if you're a national security suck-up and we should kill everybody. We should totally have a police state. You never know where the terrorists are. You're probably being monitored, moron, because you probably liked the Department of Homeland Security. Or I should say the Department of Homeland Security. It's utterly ridiculous. This is just disgusting, disgusting behavior. And 5 or 6 years ago, they'd be on the news calling us conspiracy theory whack jobs. Nobody's going to violate the Constitution. And here this douchebag is telling you you don't deserve constitutional protection. And he says you should be monitored if you're on social media, if you're on Facebook and Twitter and MySpace or whatever the hell else is out there, okay? If you're on social media, you should be being monitored because obviously you're doing stuff, so you should be monitored if you're doing stuff. Thanks for trying to put that out there, Fox, and thanks for trying to find the biggest douche you could possibly find to bring on air.
It's important to our country and important to our safety.
One of the big things here, Pilar, they're saying is, it's not just that they're monitoring Facebook and Twitter and the blogs, is they're recording some of this stuff, and they hold this stuff for several years, and a lot of it's very personal and very private. Your thoughts?
Trace, it's very scary, and I have to wholeheartedly disagree. The smells of a big brother state where Americans can just simply say one word, the wrong thing, on Facebook where they think that they're just expressing their First Amendment rights, and all of a sudden the government is monitoring their actions. There's a very fine line. We all can agree that the government needs to take heightened protection to protect us from further terrorism, but there's a very fine line between protecting us and crossing way over that into our First Amendment constitutional rights, and that's what's going on here.
Yeah, but, you know, the critics say, look, come on, the DHS doesn't care, you know, if you're writing or posting on your Facebook. They care if you're using these buzzwords, right, like outbreak and these other buzzwords that might raise red flags. That's the big concern here.
That's exactly the point.
Absolutely.
So you or I could have a simple conversation, use a word like infection. I have an infection. All of a sudden, you're being monitored by the government. It's being disseminated to government agencies. We don't know where it's going. As you point out, it's being held for years. And another scary thing is that people unknowingly are sharing private information when they go on the social media without knowing.
I'll play the rest of the clip because there's about another 30 seconds, 35 seconds left. And you got to hear what this moron Tad says. So I'll play the rest of this. I hate the mainstream media. If any of you are listening, you all suck. You're not doing your job. And that's why you're going out of business. All right, let's get back into it so I can give you the last 30 seconds and you can hear. What's his name? Tad. Names their kid Tad.
That might be stored, maintained. Their actions are being followed and shared by the government.
I'll give you the last word on this, Tad.
Shame on them. If they don't know what they're getting with Facebook, shame on them. The bottom line is Facebook is the internet equivalent of 42nd and Broadway. We all know what it's about. If you think there's any expectation of privacy with Facebook, you're sniffing glue. It's that simple.
Tad Nelson, ladies and gentlemen. Tad Nelson. There you go. Former prosecutor Tad Nelson. If you think that you should have any privacy because you're on Facebook, and I agree that Facebook is the internet and it's out there, but Facebook did trick people through its privacy policies and stuff a long time ago when they first created it. Millions of people, okay, around the world, not just in the United States there, Tad. God, if you guys could see the look on this guy's face, I just want to smack it right off of him. Anyway, he's not taking into account that these people were told that their information would not be used or sold or given to anybody. And they were working on that basic assumption. And yet, you have Facebook doing just that. You have the Department of Homeland Security obviously working with Facebook, and anybody that understands Facebook was originally set up anyway as, you know, to be a database created by people on themselves. It's a brilliant idea. Whoever thought about doing that, whatever social engineering prick thought of that, that was actually a brilliant idea. You know, I forget who said it, but back in, was it the 80s when the wall fell down and the offices of the Stasi were raided, there were cries and wails and groans heard from the citizens about the kind of, I mean, literally people crying and wailing and screaming and everything over the amount of information that the Stasi had on people and who had given it to them. You know, what people were the informants and stuff. And today, people willingly give 10 times that amount of information about themselves on Facebook or Twitter. And you've heard me rant about this before and say that I totally disagree with people putting those geolocation apps or whatever they are on Twitter, you know, where you can click the box and, you know, check mark the box and it'll, you know, whenever you pull in somewhere or whatever, it'll randomly tweet where you're at. And or on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, I don't know if Facebook does it anymore. I know Twitter does it. And you'll hear, or if you won't hear, you'll see rather, on Twitter, if you go check your feed or whatever, once in a while, somebody's thing will come up and it'll say, hey, I'm at, you know, John's Bagel Shack at 15th and Broadway in, you know, Pascagoula, Mississippi. And it'll give you the, you know, the whole address and everything. Well, if I was going to stalk you, right, that would be a great piece of information for me. I just got to go to your Twitter page under some anonymous Twitter name, and I could stalk you. And that could be a stalker. That could be someone tailing you. The feds could easily figure out where you're at. They could have a trail if they wanted to, you know, watch you, everything you do. And I don't want to hear, well, you shouldn't be nervous if you have nothing to hide. No, you shouldn't be, you know, Constitution is expressly against that type of behavior. I want to live in a free society where I don't have to worry that you're looking over my shoulder all the time. It's the way this country was set up. So don't buy that crap either. Don't buy into don't drink the Kool-Aid of, well, if you have nothing to hide, it shouldn't matter. Now, anyway, getting back to the geolocation thing, you should turn that crap off on your Twitter if you have it. First of all, you shouldn't use Twitter on your cell phone unless you really need to. In fact, I only used it to upload, I think it was, I took a picture for my wife, and I uploaded it to Twitter on her account. Like, I signed into Twitter on my phone through mobile Twitter because I had taken it with my phone into her Twitter account. And it kept me logged in, you know. And when I tried to log out, I thought it was logged out. And it was secretly in the background on for like another week before I even realized it. I happened to be playing with the phone, and I saw that it was still on. It doesn't make any sense, okay, at all. I signed out. I logged out, unless you think that maybe there's obviously a little program that maybe it didn't log itself out, and I thought it did. Maybe I didn't hit the button. The point is that you could easily be giving information out. Even, look at me. I thought it was signed off. Who knows? Maybe it secretly didn't turn itself off. Whatever. The point is, even if I didn't hit the button physically hard enough to make the log off engage, and I thought it did, you know, and I went back to a main menu or something. Now, I know about this tracking software and stuff, but, and not that anybody's, you know, tracking my wife's Twitter account, but I know about it, and I made that mistake. So anybody could make that mistake. So I urge you to make sure if you use your Twitter on your phone, first of all, you should turn that thing off. Only log into it when you need it. I keep it on my phone just in case there's something bad going down or whatever. I can get it out there like ASAP. So it's a good device to have to save you that way. Only time I ever log into it. I don't stay logged into it. None of that crap. I don't log into Facebook from my phone ever. I did once. Let me retract that. 3 times I did, and the second time it had logged itself, somehow changed settings so that all of a sudden I was getting emails, and somebody looked at my page or breathed on the Federal Jack fan page on Facebook. I would get an email, and it did all this stuff without me giving it permission to. It just automatically did it. And the third time I went on was when I shut all that stuff off, and then I logged out, and I never gone on again because I didn't like the fact that it automatically did it. So a lot of these social media platforms are automatically sending out tweets or Facebook updates, whatever the hell, whatever other bazillion different forms of social media. There's more things than just Twitter and Facebook. There's LinkedIn, and there's other stuff. I don't keep track with all of them. I know there's RTR. The guys over with Gary Franchi there, his crew, the men and women over there running RTR. I bet you they're getting monitored by DHS. I'll have to get Gary Franchi on one of these days and ask him his opinion about the state of things today. He was on my show a couple months ago, but he's been super busy with the whole Revolution PAC thing and everything else with Ron Paul. So hopefully if he gets a chance, I'll be able to get him on the show and get his thoughts on this. But just crazy world we live in. Crazy world, ladies and gentlemen. So beware what you tweet. I'm not saying be afraid, but be mindful about tweeting, you know, too much information about yourself. You shouldn't be putting that stuff out there anyway. I'm from a different generation, I guess. My mom always taught me that you shouldn't be giving people information about yourself. You should never give people too much information about yourself because then people start to make judgments about you. And this was, 30 years ago. And you could change that to today and say, well, they might judge you as, quote unquote, being a terrorist. That's making a judgment. It could be a wrong one, but they don't have the full scope. They have a tidbit of information. You know how people are in this world, in this day and age. Very gossip happy, especially considering they've been watching reality television, ladies and gentlemen. Getting you ready to have cameras all around you at all times. And helping dumb down the next generation. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to give a thanks to Jules for sending me an article. The following article I'm going to read. It's from The Smoking Gun. Chalk-wielding Occupy protester freed from jail after prosecutors drop charges. Now that's their title. It should be chalk-wielding Occupy protester freed from jail after, 3 weeks when prosecutors drop charges. They left out the 3-week part. After spending 3 weeks in jail following his arrest for writing a protest message in chalk on a Florida sidewalk, an Occupy Wall Street member was just freed after prosecutors declined to pursue criminal charges. So he was locked up on December 22nd. Wow. 3 weeks this guy's been locked up in jail. Spent Christmas and New Year's in jail for writing with chalk. And police said that he was very vocal and attempted to pull away after being handcuffed. Right. So I'm sure maybe the guy said, F you or something, and obviously pissed them off. Whatever. You move and you breathe when you're, in police custody nowadays, and it's considered resisting. Ridiculous. Anyway, it says he attempted to pull away, and he also reportedly called officers pigs and fascists. Right. So to get him over his usage of the word fascist or pig to identify a police officer, locking him up for 3 weeks for writing on the sidewalk with chalk, that's really going to do it. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, real good way to show them that you guys aren't fascists. Just thought you guys might find that interesting. That guy draws on the sidewalk with chalk, and obviously, the guy, his picture, he doesn't look too. It's not too flattering of a picture. Not that mugshot photos ever are, but this guy gets arrested and goes to jail for 3 weeks for writing with chalk on the sidewalk, and the people that robbed trillions of dollars from this country walk around free, actually telling the police what to do. Welcome to Bizarro Land, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Bizarro Land. All right, I want to play a clip for you. I want to get into this different subject for the last half hour here. Depopulation, eugenics in America. It's about a 5-minute clip, and I'm going to play it, and then, I might even stop it a few times and interrupt, so I might have to go into the last segment with it, but we'll see. It's about, and it's CNN vaguely covering some of the eugenics experiments that went on throughout this country, and they even admit that it dates back to the 30s, but this stuff was going on even before then, but it was very popular back then, so... you're going to hear stories like this one guy. He was considered feeble-minded because he's a little slow. So they just sterilized him so he could never have children. Don't let him make that decision. The state just made it for him. Check it out.
I couldn't do nothing about it.
October 22nd, 1968. Charles Holt was 19 at the time, living in an institution for boys in Butner, North Carolina, when his life was drastically changed without his consent.
They sent me to Rex Hospital, and then they just pushed me in a room and just gave me a second of gas. I just went off sleep. Then when I woke up from it, I noticed something was wrong, and they told me what they done, and I wasn't a happy camper.
What they had done was surgery, a vasectomy to make him sterile. But why? It turns out the order came from the state, which said he was feeble-minded and unworthy of having children.
I want to be out to be just like any other young man, to try to have a family and have some kids that I could call my own. It didn't happen that way.
Charles Holt wasn't alone. In fact, his story is only one representing a shameful chapter in American history. From 1907 through the 1970s, more than 60,000 Americans were sterilized because they had, quote, unfit human traits. It was called eugenics. The goal? Breed out those considered to be a burden on the rest of society and make, quote, better human beings tomorrow. 33 states had eugenics programs at one time or another, supported by some of the nation's most respected doctors and social workers. Even the Supreme Court approved it. Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote in one 1927 case, 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. In North Carolina, anyone, a parent, a teacher, a neighbor, could ask the state eugenics board to have someone sterilized. Some victims were developmentally
Did you hear that? Anybody could ask to have somebody sterilized. A neighbor. A neighbor. Your neighbor could not like you. You should sterilize that guy. He's a complete imbecile. They come and cart you off and sterilize you. Your neighbor. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, for you that don't know, those of you that hear this broadcast that don't know history, we had some pretty disgusting eugenics laws in this country in the earlier part of the 20th century. And the late part of the later half of the like the last couple of years of the 19th century. Disgusting. I mean, we had eugenics laws, eugenics-based laws, I guess, eugenics thinking, but literally like eugenics sterilization type laws were coming into effect in the 1900s, and this is what came about, and this went on until the 70s, like the late 70s. This was still going on in most places.
Disabled, living in institutions. Records show others were living at home, forced to go under the surgeon's knife because they were paupers or because they were blind or deaf or had syphilis.
You'd be sterilized if you were sexually promiscuous or if you were paralyzed or not physically attractive. They have a skin disorder. This person's not fit to reproduce.
The state.
You're not physically attractive, so you can't have children. I'll repeat that. You're not physically attractive enough, so you're not allowed to have children. You should see this list. I wanted to stop it, but it went by so fast. I'm going to have to rewind here for a second. I want to read this list. I want to read some of the stuff off here for you guys. It's just ridiculous. Let me go back here a minute here. Okay. Feeble-mindedness, epilepsy, convulsions, paralysis, sexual promiscuity, syphilis, gonorrhea, tuberculosis, alcoholism, criminality, suicidal tendency, you're a pauper, you're a drug addict, congenital blindness, so if you're blind, no good, you should be sterilized, acquired blindness, so if you get blind over the course of time, you're screwed. You should, if you're born blind, you should be sterilized, and if you end up getting blind somewhere throughout your life, you should be sterilized right then and there. You're no good. Doesn't matter if you're a veteran, lose your eye, and a stupid accent, doesn't matter. Very nice. Acquired deafness, congenital deafness, dumbness, extreme nervousness, and it says, well, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. It's C-H-O-R-E-A, so I guess Korea or Korea, but it says there's, what is it, Sydenham's and then Huntington's. So I guess Huntington's disease, and then there's another one. So if you have any of these diseases, you're no good. Epilepsy, which could come about from from getting a brain injury, you fall and hit your head, you could become epileptic. If you have seizures, quote unquote, they consider, because it's a seizure disorder. So if you have a seizure disorder, if you're a promiscuous female or a promiscuous guy, you should be sterilized. Alcoholic, sterilized. Suicidal tendency, Sterilization. Shouldn't be allowed to have children. Pauper? You're poor? Pfft. You shouldn't be allowed to have kids. You don't have money? Ugh, you should not allowed to procreate at all. Now, question is, what do they consider to be a pauper? Good question, especially with today's economy. All right, I'll play the rest of this clip. There's about another 2 minutes of it. I'll play it when we get back and finish dissecting it. Man, the show flies by real fast. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to play this clip, and hopefully I'll be able to get through the last 2 minutes in the next 10 minutes.
If you were sexually promiscuous,
or if you were paralyzed, or not physically attractive, they have a skin disorder, this person's not fit to reproduce.
The state of North Carolina has tasked Charmaine Fuller Cooper to uncover this frightening past.
The first time last year that I actually had to read an actual Eugenics Board record of an individual patient case file, I literally sat at my desk and cried for about 15 minutes.
Her research shows about 7,600 people in North Carolina were sterilized. Procedures here continued into the 1970s, well after many states had stopped. So it's estimated about 2,000 victims are still alive. In later years, the focus targeted women on welfare, many of whom were African American. North Carolina has become the only state to take steps to compensate victims. For nearly 10 years, the state legislature has written reports, submitted bills, even heard testimony from victims.
I wouldn't have mind having me a daughter. Maybe 2, maybe 3. The state need to award us, because we got to carry on.
But so far, these victims have received nothing more than apologies from Governor Bev Perdue.
I just came here as a woman, as a mama, and as a grandmama, and as governor of the state, quite frankly, to tell you it was wrong.
Compensating victims could cost tens of millions of dollars during a time of budget cuts. State legislators like Representative Ruth Samuelson are worried about money.
We had to set priorities, things like, do we compensate eugenics victims or do we put classroom teachers in place? We had to make choices.
Is it possible these victims will, in the end, walk away with nothing?
That is a possibility if we don't have legislators who are willing to stand up for the victims.
Charles Holt knows he may never see a dime.
So the state of North Carolina has said they're sorry. Is that enough?
No.
What more do they need to do?
I think they should give us some compensation off of it.
2012 could be the year the legislature acts. Charles Holt holds out hope for an award he says will fit the crime done to him more than 4 decades ago.
What's just horrible is they did this to person after person after person.
Yes, ma'am. It's real. It's just disgusting.
Elizabeth Cohen, CNN.
All right, now I'm going to go back, and because somebody in the chat asked me, they had missed part of the last segment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, and I'm not going to play the clip, but I'm going to go back and read that list again. I just got to find where it was, but I'm going to go find that list again. It was about 2 minutes in here. I'm looking for it. Of what you could be sterilized for. Possibilities. What you could be sterilized for. It's really disgusting if you think about it, but there it is. There's the list. Okay. Oop. Move so damn fast. Okay. Feeble-mindedness. This is the list of things you could be sterilized for. Once again, just for anybody that didn't hear it last segment. I'll try to fit it in here again. Feeble-mindedness. Epilepsy. Convulsions. Paralysis, sexual promiscuity, syphilis, gonorrhea, tuberculosis, alcoholism, criminality, suicidal tendencies. If you're a pauper, so if they consider you to be poor and a pauper, I guess, a drug addict, congenital blindness, acquired blindness, congenital deafness or acquired deafness, dumbness, extreme nervousness, and Huntington's. And there's one other one, it's Sydenham's or something like that. I'm probably pronouncing that and murdering it. But if you go The video is, I have it up, I'll give you the title, I'll throw it in the chat room too, but it's in my YouTube, I uploaded it, it's titled Depopulation and Eugenics in America. And I'll throw it in the chat room for the people in the chat, but it's called, again, Depopulation and Eugenics in America. And you can watch the interview I just played if you want to watch the whole thing, without me interrupting and, ranting. Today was like a very busy news day for me here, and I'm working, and I was getting ready for the show, and I had wanted to talk about, I was originally just going to, play the clips and, try to get into other things, but I decided about a half hour before the show that I was going to narrow it down to just a few things, and there was a few things I really wanted to spend some time on talking about, and I'm glad I got a chance to. Again, I urge you to check out eugenics, research the eugenics laws in this country from the past. Just utterly disgusting, and they're trying to, reverse course and go back, ladies and gentlemen. And when I say they, I mean these social engineers, these elitists, I guess you could call them, the Illuma douchebags. That's my nickname for them. And they are trying to bring us back to the Dark Ages. So you could see some of the things that, come up when we talk about eugenics and stuff, and people scream, conspiracy theory. It's not a theory, it's conspiracy fact. This is stuff that went on. And they, as you hear, these people are, now, I forget what state it was, but I saw a video a couple days ago of a woman that was involved in this in another state, and they gave her $50,000, and she's like, yeah, does that bring me back the capability of ever having children? Thanks a lot. She wasn't retarded or anything like that. She's not somebody that outwardly you would say, I don't know why she was quote-unquote sterilized, but she wasn't outwardly anything wrong with her. So who knows why something, somebody, why they did it. They just did it. She was a black lady, so it might have been because of the color of her skin. Let's get real. Back then, racism prevailed. Look at some of the stuff. I mean, you don't think that black people were targeted back in the day for eugenics? Please. Look at Planned Parenthood. There's a study done by what is his name? Pastor Childress. He's a black pastor. And it's something like 51% of, because of Planned Parenthood, 51% of the black population have not been born with all the abortions and stuff that have been performed. So, very interesting. It makes you wonder if, they're trying to dumb down each individual segment of the population, black people, Asian people, whatever, if they're trying to target each individual group and dumb them down. In martial law plans, the first people to get rounded up are black people. You think I'm lying? Go look at some of these old martial law plans and stuff, like Rex 84 and all this other stuff. The first people they want to go for is the black community. They fear you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the black community, if you're a black American, they fear you because they know they've pissed you off doing, treating you horribly over the years, and they know that they fear you, basically. They just fear you. For whatever reason, they fear you. Ignorance, whatever. So, it's interesting. Their own personal racism is one of the reasons it's pushed out onto the populace. They think like this. They treat, they look at us like this. So they want us to look at each other like that. And I challenge you, ladies and gentlemen, to not be that. I challenge you to stand up and look. It doesn't matter if your neighbor or your friends are black, Asian, white, purple with polka dots, as long as they're a decent human being and they're a good person, you judge the tree by its fruits. You don't judge the tree by what it looks like. That's a very bad thing to do. Don't just judge the tree because maybe it's a small tree or it's an ugly-looking tree. It might produce some of the most beautiful fruit. So don't judge a book by its cover. Don't be racist. Don't buy into the bullshit that these morons believe in too. Okay, don't buy into that. Don't play into their game. Don't hate somebody because they're black. That's what these morons are. That's their racist beliefs. Don't let them become you. You define yourself. Don't let some schmuck in some involved in some secret society and following some age-old plan, I'm doing air quotes, okay? Don't let him decide who you are as a person. You decide who you are. You decide to be better than that. And that step alone is the big step, and then everything else will seem like cakewalk and it'll just fall into place. Again, before we run out of time, I want to make sure I remind everybody of my little project here. At least once a week, I want to be able to read, spend at least one segment, maybe even two. That'd be awesome. Giving out, giving a voice to the veterans. So, veterans' views, veterans, active duty military, whatever you guys hear this broadcast later on, hear it on YouTube, archives, hear it live. Email me, info@federaljack.com, info@federaljack.com. Tell me your story, and I will tell it to the world verbatim. I will read it on air. I want to give you, men and women, a voice. You are my brothers and sisters. You are treated horribly by this government, and I will do my best to at least give you the voice that you have earned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. I love you all. Stay tuned. I'll be back on Friday. Semper Fi. I'm out. Today's live edition is going to be one of my rant editions. It's not going to be 2 hours of me getting in-depth into just one subject. I'm going to be talking about a few things that have come up in the news in the past few days. Things that I think need to be discussed. And a few of the clips that I'm going to play for you, I'm going to dissect and tear apart. So I do have a full-packed show for you guys. I'd like to announce a special project I'm doing here on my show. Depending on how much feedback I get, I'd like to start a segment at least once a week. Give you guys, the people that I'm going to request right in, give you guys a voice. I want to do a special for veterans or active duty, any branch of the service, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, National Guard, Reserve, active duty, retired, vet, disabled vet. And I'd like to call it Veterans View. Like,
either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen, believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw our fingernails.
The Veterans View. What I basically want you guys to do is send me emails to info@federaljack.com. Again, info, I-N-F-O, at federaljack.com. And tell me your feelings on things. And if it's, try to make it, because it's going to be read on air, so obviously it can't be laden with profanity. But try to, I could, substitute, if you say the F word here or there, that's fine, because I could substitute that, But it will be read on air, so, try to be somewhat to the point, but feel free to be as long-winded as you would like. Basically, I'd like to give the veterans a chance to get their voices heard. And I want to hear your opinions on the election, politics, the New World Order, the war. If there's something that you witnessed or saw that you want to get out and talk about, but you want to remain anonymous, that's fine. If you're just a pissed-off veteran, you don't like how things are going, and you want to rant about that, that's fine. I want to give you guys, at least a segment, like once a week, if possible. If I get more, maybe I can even donate more time to it. But I'd like to donate some of my airtime to the men and women of the armed services that don't get a chance to have their voices heard. So I'd like to give them a chance to,
Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now, I can't make you do it. You gotta look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now, I think you're gonna see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're gonna see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're gonna do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Ideas are bulletproof.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. It is January 11th, 2012. This is Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye, from federaljack.com. Get their opinions and stuff put on air. And again, no topic is off the table, so feel free to write in, email me, and tell me, veterans, how you guys feel. I want to know, and I will read the I'll read the emails on air. It's much easier to do it like this. That way, people have time to compose their thoughts and stuff, and then they can send me the emails, and then I can, once I get a couple of them and I get enough, I'll do a special little segment. And then, like I said, depending on how many I get, once a week, if I have to donate more time to it, maybe more, and I can give you guys, I can let the listeners all over the world hear veterans' viewpoints on different things. So that's my new little project I'm working on. So again, veterans, families of veterans that maybe have something they want to get out. Maybe you lost your son or your daughter, or something bad happened to them and they committed suicide, whatever the case may be. I want to get it out. I want people to know the truth. And since veterans don't get a chance to get their voices heard enough, like I said, I want to donate this time to them. So email me at info@federaljack.com. Again, info@federaljack.com. And any vets that listen to this, if you guys ever feel depressed or anything like that, or you're having a bad day or something, and you start to have some dumb thoughts for whatever reason, maybe you saw something and it's been bothering you, feel free to email me